quiet boy. That Shadow. My old dog. Well, he's getting on a bit now, like me. And like his name, he's always at my side. Well, I say, I never get married, but he's good company. Goes everywhere with me, and well, we're well known in the village. But 2 or 3 weeks ago, we went a bit farther than we normally go. You may find this hard to believe, but I drove a very expensive car as far away from here as you can get by taking side roads, and then I set fire to it before coming home. Why, you may ask? Well, I'll tell you. Well, I was in the pub one night with this farmhand Pete, who I can't abide. When he walked in, he starts waving that rag, the Sun newspaper about. When he points at an article about a young lady named Catherine, who used to live here many years ago, and who married a Yankee billionaire. Well, he read on how his wife, this Catherine, spends millions of dollars on clothes while this Yankee bugger's screwing his shareholders out of their money. Oh, they taken him to court, of course, but his clever lawyers got him off. Used their own money to buy his way out of trouble, so to speak. Oh, he'll get his comeuppance one day, this Peter said, and looked round to make sure everyone in the room were listening to him. What ye sow, so shall ye reap, he assured us, and waited for our approval. There were a few heads that nodded, but I didn't say nothing. Not at first. But when he went on to say, oh, and that Catherine, well, I reckon she's no better than what he is, turned out to be a right bad and she has. And to think we was at school with her, well, perhaps that's what she is, just like her Yankee husband. Bit of a bitch, if you'll pardon the expression. Now, I remember this Catherine, and well, when he insults her, well, that's when I gets angry. I may be a pensioner, but I very nearly punched him on the nose. Well, I stood up and I glared at him. Don't you go calling her names. When you know nothing about her or the circumstance she finds herself in, I said. There weren't none of us that didn't like her when she were here, and I won't have you making unfound accusations. And you know what? I poked him hard in the chest to make sure he got the point, but the poor old bugger wasn't prepared, so when he stepped back, he tripped over a table full of drinks. Soaked to the skin he was. Blast, we laughed, but all he did was let out a cuss or two and rushed out of the door like the coward he is. Well, he never mentioned her name again. Well, certainly not in my company. Not that I go to the pub often. Well, I worked on the land all my life, same as my father and his father before him, and wages ain't high in agriculture. Well, luckily, when my parents died, I inherited the house, and so I don't have to pay no rent. Now, my father taught me all I know about farm work. Well, he was a big hefty man, and I reckon that's where I gets my strength from. Do you know, once, when I was a lad, I watched him kill a roe pig. No, not that he wanted to see it dead, but he broke out of its sky and it attacked me and the farmer's children who I were playing with. Well, it could have been right nasty, and the farmer's wife, well, she was going spare, kicking at it with her legs and screaming for someone to do something. So my old dad, he picks up his spade and he gives it one right round the side of the head. Down it goes like a sack of potatoes. Never knew what hit it. Killed it stone dead, he did. Well, the farmers are so obliged that no one got hurt that he gave my dad the pig and he lived off pork for months after. Fair old times, eh? My life's been a good one and I wouldn't change nothing. Or nothing about it except one thing. You see, through all our school life, the lady in question, that Catherine and me, sat next to each other in class, and we was always friends. Well, grew up together, we did, from infants to adults, you might say. Me and her were inseparable. But one day she came to me all upset, with tears running down her face, and announced her parents were moving off to America, and I'd never see her again. Well, the point is, you see, her and me, well, we were caught in unofficial like, and that summer we'd laid together in the meadow. She were my first, and I were hers. And when they took her away, well, it fair broke my heart. But I never did meet anyone half as good as her, so I've lived on my own and busied myself looking after my hens and tending the garden. Well, other than that, I've kept myself busy tending the churchyard, cutting grass and hedges and all that, and, well, when they're needed, I dig the graves. Gosh, the vicar could hire a mechanical digger, but they cost money. and I comes cheap. But I still have my health and my faculties, and so I'm as happy as I ever going to be. Well, anyway, one day I was up to church, been there all day without seeing a soul, and I'd just about finished digging 2 graves when the vicar walks up and seeing me sweating with effort, he says, "Deaths are like miracles, Walter. Nothing happens for ages. And then when you least expect it, 2 come along together." Well, we laughed. He likes to think he's a bit of a wag, our old vicar. Anyway, he went off to some conference or other, and so there I was on my own, listening to the birds singing and thinking how lucky I was to live in this peaceful part of the country. Mind you, when I started digging again, my mood soon changed. I hit something hard with my spade. Well, it was only a blasted water main, and I knew I'd done all that work for nothing. See, you can't bury something in a spot like that. As I was about to fill it in and start a new one, when I hears a car draw up, and I watched as an elegant elderly lady gets out, and she walks over towards me. "Well, I wonder if you can help me," she called. "The village is deserted and I was looking for..." Well, she stopped, not 15 feet away, appeared at me and said, "Walter?" And despite the slight American accent, I knew immediately it was her. "Catherine," I breathed, hardly be able to say her name. Well, she came, stood right in front of me, so close I could smell her perfume. Oh, I wanted to grab her and hug her, but I daren't. No, it had been too many years. "You're not changed, still as weather-beaten as ever, tall and handsome." "You too," I said. Oh, but I lied. Oh, she was beautiful, all right. Oh, they suited her. But she had lots of makeup on and her hair was all plastic-like. Oh, I remember the days when she ran through the fields with the sun in her hair as it floated behind her and her bare brown legs skipping through the grass. "You're married now?" I said. "Yes." She looked deep into my eyes. "You?" No. I never did, not after. "You're lucky." It was the stupidest thing I ever did. Parent pressure, and I stayed with him all these years until now. Well, I must have looked puzzled because she said, "Can we talk?" Well, yes, of course, I said. And I took her to sit on a bench near the church. Well, for a while we chatted away as if it were old times, and her eyes sparkled the way they used to. Oh, as if all those years had never gone by. But we both knew there were things that had to be said. Well, eventually, she let go of my hand and said, "Walter, I've left my husband and run away for good." Well, she stopped to take breath and gather herself together before going on. "You see, he's done many bad things in his life, but recently he did something..." I interrupted her. I know, I heard her. I said, "Somebody showed me an article about him in the paper, and I seen it all on the news. He's been accused of fiddling folk out of their money. He's been breaking the law and getting away with it for years," she said, "and I did nothing. But this time, he did something much worse." Well, all the blood had drained from her cheeks. "A few weeks ago," she continued, "my husband wanted to get away from the media, and so he took a plane to California. He thought no one knew where we were, but a man had traced us and came to the hotel where we were staying. Well, I felt so sorry for him," she said. "He was just an ordinary family man who'd lost everything. And he said he had indisputable proof that my husband had defrauded him, and unless he got his money back, he was going to expose him." Well, here she stopped and she turned to look at me. I heard my husband raise his voice, and I knew what a temper he had, and so I went in to make sure nothing happened. But it was too late, she said. He pushed the poor man over the balcony. Well, tears welled up in her eyes. He said I was to lie and say he'd fallen, but I couldn't. I went to the authorities and I told them the truth, but he has so much influence that no one believed me. My husband could be ruthless, and I knew my life was in danger, so She stood and said, oh, look, this has nothing to do with you. Look, coming here was a mistake. I just wanted to see you one more time before he... Well, suddenly she reached up and kissed me on the cheek. Oh, my heart started to pound just as it had done all those years ago. She let go of my hands and said, I better go. And she pulled away from me. But as she pulled away from me, Shadow's ears picked up, and he gave out a low growl. Well, looking up, I saw another car had slid in beside hers. Well, it's a big and expensive car, and we both knew who it was. It was her husband. Despite her protests, I made Catherine go in the church, and I walked with Shadow back where I'd been digging. I leaned on my spade and watched as he strolled over toward us. Where is she? He drawled. I looked at him as if I was simple village yokel. No, who would that be then, sir? I said. Don't waste your time, he snarled. And seeing the church door open, said, She's in there, ain't she? Well, I shrugged my shoulders. Well, there's no one here but me and my dog, sir. And I suppose that's your vehicle, he said. And then he took out a gun. But before we had a chance to do anything, Catherine, she stepped out of the church. I'm here. Leave him alone, she called. Well, he turned and he gave a sort of growl. And he pointed his gun right at her. Now, the only guns I've ever seen apart from those on telly are shotguns that they used up the farm to kill rats. But there's more than one way to kill a rat, I thought. And instinctively, just like my father had done all those years ago, I swung that spade and I caught him on the side of his head. Well, down he went like a sack of taters, just like that old pig. Now, I've seen enough bodies in my time, and so before I knelt down to examine him, I knew he was dead. Well, Catherine, she came running over, and when she saw the look on my face, she knew he was a goner as well. But cool as cucumber, I rolled him onto his back and searched his pockets. I took out his wallet and any other bits and pieces and handed them to Catherine before rolling him into the grave. God knows what she was a-thinking. She watched me fill it in, but there was no time for small talk. Well, I've driven enough farm vehicles in my time and I knows how to drive, so off we went. Me in his car with Shadow and she following in hers. Well, no one saw us and no one knew what we'd done. So, here we are. Shadow and me sitting in my kitchen, enjoying a nice cup of tea with Catherine. The burnt out car was found eventually, but despite all their modern fancy methods, the police gave up. They gave up trying to find out who did it. Later we discovered that her husband never let anyone know where he was going, so his disappearance will remain a mystery. Well, one of the things we found on him were a fake passport that I burnt. Oh, and a carpet bag of money were in his boot, full of used banknotes. Well, it's in the attic now, and we reckons, if we're careful, it'll keep us going for a few years now, won't it, Catherine? So, all ends that ends well, so to speak. Maybe that obnoxious farmhand Peter, who I was telling you about, wasn't so wrong after all, because as they say, everything comes to him who waits, and Catherine and me, well, we certainly waited. Too long, perhaps. But I reckon the villagers will soon come to terms with us living together. And so now, as they say, we're as happy as pigs in... Well, you know how that goes.